No longer a scammer, I think, probably.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone watching today's Slop Meal video, how have you been today? We've got an interesting slop topic to dive into, which is Wendigoon being hacked. Now, if you're unaware, a few days ago, Wendigoon, well, got hacked. This is not a drill. My own official meme coin is now live on pump.fun. Thank you to my team for helping me set this up. So just take a look at it, right? It is the most obvious hack of all hacks ever, right? There is not one more hack that looks more like a hack than this hack. I know I've just said hack quite a bit. But there was something that threw off the people with 0 brain cells and the brain structure of somebody like Anissa and iDubbbz, and it was this video that Wendigoon then posted.
The video of me, my face. Here's the details on the paper. Backwards.
So this threw some people off, right? Some people were pretty confused by this, right? Thinking, oh god, well, he might have not actually been hacked here. I mean, still very obviously he was hacked, but some people got tricked here. Of course, Wendigoon was hacked. He didn't sell out to crypto like Logan Paul or the Hook Tour gal, right? He didn't do that. Was hacked. And unfortunately, this is where Slopception happens, right? Slopinception, where Pyrocynical was involved. It's great. Pyrocynical actually made a video on this situation where he had reached out to Wendigoon to ask him about if he had been hacked and if it was okay for him to cover this situation, and Wendigoon had actually sent him a video for this video. Look, I respect the slop game as much as anybody else, right? My channel is literally called Slop Meal, right? But you don't realize how much Pyrocynical waffles into you sitting here making a video on the exact same topic he's made a video on to realize that he takes about 20 minutes to get through the same stuff that it would take me about 2 minutes to get through. But look, game is game. I can't hate on a fellow slopper. That sounds just incredibly weird.
Wendigoon on Instagram and basically said to him, hey, hope you're doing all right. Do you need like any kind of help getting back into your account? Because as you guys know, I got Twitter back a couple of years ago after being suspended for like 6 years, which was, looking back on it, a massive, huge mistake. And then I basically also asked him for permission to actually, you know, talk about the topic because I didn't want to cover this and then bring more attention to it if he wanted to not really have it talked about that much, but he gave me full consent. And he actually even at one point recorded an entire video breaking down step by step what actually happened.
Oh, look, I'll be going over some of the things that Wendigoon actually speaks about in this video here, but I don't just want to do a recap of another slop video inside a slop video. That just doesn't seem good. Because, of course, I have been waiting for Wendigoon's official response to this, and he dropped an 8-minute video on his Twitter, which is the main thing we're going to be covering, but I do want to quickly just go over what he sent Pyrocynical, as that is quite a big puzzle piece.
I was recording a video a couple days ago, and I also had family in Memorial Day here in the United States. So I was kind of rushed between doing the video and trying to spend time with them, and everything was really hectic. And then I get a call from a phone number that's a 201 area code, and it's not an ID, just a location. Calls a couple times, and after like the third time, I'm like, well, maybe this is something important or someone who knows me. Normally I just ignore random phone calls. So I answer it, and it's someone who says, hello, we're with X moderation team, or with X content team or policy team, whatever. What, like X? What are you talking about? And then the guy laughs and he's like, sorry, Twitter. Important thing to note, guy spoke perfect English, seemed very casual over the phone call. I've had scam callers before. He did not sound like any one of them. He's part of the moderation team, and I am a verified user or priority user or whatever. So they were calling to inform me that there were a series of attempts to get into my account from Colorado. They said that there were 5 in a row.
Look, I'm going to be trying to be charitable and reasonable and fair here and not just shit on Wendigoon for falling for this, right? Falling for this obvious hack. Because of course, this can happen to anybody. You can pick up the phone, be having a bad day, and you can fall for this. Of course, it goes without saying, if you do receive a suspicious phone call or a phone call that you're not really aware of or you're not very familiar with, that you shouldn't do anything with that phone number or what they tell you to do. You should just make sure and verify that you're talking to the people that they say they are.
Through a cookie thing, like a cookie hack or cookie entry or whatever. And I was suspicious, and I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? And he said, we're going to send you an email with, we're going to open a complaint number. So if you want to read the complaint number back to me to verify that it's you, that'd be great. And I said, okay, well, how do I know that you're not a scammer? And he was like, you think I'm a scammer? And I'm like, yeah, how do I verify that this isn't a scam thing I'm talking to? And he's like, well, it's really good that you're aware of these kind of things, but we're sending an email right now for confirmation. And the email he sent was from twitter.com. It was like support-twitter.com. And then there's a link, and when you click on the link, it takes you to an overlay that says like twitter.com or whatever.
And of course, this is the more understandable bit. Yeah, this would look more legitimate because, you know, of course, recently Twitter changed into X. So you might not be thinking that their websites would have updated to X or anything, and this would look legitimate because, you know, X has changed over everything from Twitter to X, unfortunately, so this is now something that can take place. And this is where I think I could be 100% more reasonable here because, yeah, like, if you're clicking on this and you're actually being loaded onto Twitter, your first thought isn't, yeah, they might have already changed it to X. You know, that's probably not going to be your first thought.
He's like, can you read back the number on the ticket we sent you? So I read him the number back, and he's like, that number's actually not right. Here, let me talk to my manager. So he like puts me on hold for a minute, and then he comes back later, and he's like, okay, my manager said just to send another one. So he sends another one, and again, he's like, the numbers aren't correct. And he was like, okay, we can verify this another way. And he was like, we're going to send you another email. Once again, the email's from like support-Twitter or whatever. He says, okay, we've sent you this other one. If you could click on the link, and all of the link, I have done a lot of like stuff with Twitter before, where you have like the blacks, or since it's been X, you have the black screen with like the logo at the top of the page. It looked like any other screen I would log on to on X. And also whenever I signed up for premium or like the blue check mark on Twitter or X, whatever, they had me send in pictures of myself. They had, you know, like whenever you sign up, it's like send a picture or whatever. So I'm going through the stuff and I'm on the phone with him and I say, hey, what's it asking me to do? What's all this? And he's like, well, remember when you signed up to get your check mark, you had to do a picture. We're just taking extra steps to verify. You have to write down your name, the date, and the code we're sending.
For that extra long clip, but Wendigoon was just explaining what had happened, and that's where that weird clip of him with the stuff on that notepad came from, where some people got confused if he was genuinely hacked or this was legitimate. That came from the hack through this. And like I said earlier about being fair and reasonable to Wendigoon in regards to this hack, this does sound very professional and very sophisticated. This doesn't sound like it's just a routine type of hack where, you know, it's very, very obvious. This seems like they've thoroughly thought this through. And of course, this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for Elon Musk and X, right? Changing Twitter to X. This is all his fault at the end of the day.
Your friend's laptop, and the cookie from that was used to gather your data through this means. So then that data got passed on to data brokers, and he talked to me for like 10-15 minutes about how to be safe online. At the end of the call, I thanked the guy and apologized to him for believing him to be a scammer. That's how hook, line, and sinker he had.
Yeah, like I said earlier, this was a very believable hack. This wasn't something that was done just at a random thought or notice. It wasn't one of the very, very obvious ones. This was something that was thoroughly thought out to the point where Wendigoon genuinely thought that this wasn't a scammer and apologized to the scammer for thinking he was a scammer.
My family went on our little excursion. My wife assumed that I would not be stupid enough to fall into a whole crypto thing. So she tweeted that the video was AI because she loves me. I thought there was no way I would be dumb enough to write all that down and do what I did, when in fact I was dumb.
Look, I do appreciate that he is self-aware, right? That was a dumb move and dumb mistake, and that he probably should have just spent a bit longer verifying that what he was doing was actually correct and he was talking to the official people. But from the sounds of it, this was a very, very sophisticated hack. It very much seemed like they're what they were doing. So yeah, I can kind of understand it a lot more than if it was just, you know, your routine hack that's very obviously a scam.
Acknowledge that I am dumb, that this was a very dumb decision. The moment I got a call from Twitter about my account being hacked, I should have known better. They would have sent me an email or maybe a DM. Like, at that point, I should have tapped out, and then all the steps that followed. They caught me at an opportune time where I was stressed with work, I was stressed with family, I had a lot of irons in the fire, and I had like gotten emails before about verifying my safety on Twitter because, you know, people can try to get into your account. So I just thought it was an extension of that.
Again, I appreciate him just being pretty self-aware that, yeah, this was a dumb move, dumb mistake, probably something that shouldn't have happened, and I should have probably just taken more time to make sure what was going on and what I was doing was actually correct. But at the end of the day, it does seem pretty sophisticated. As he said, he was busy, you know, caught him on a bad day, which, like I said earlier, is something that could happen to you, the viewer, could happen to me, could happen to anybody. Now, of course, the slop section's over. Bye-bye, Pyro Live. Now we're going to be going over, quickly, Wendigoon's 8-minute video he recently uploaded to Twitter.
First step to get out of the way, I'm stupid. I'm a very dumb and silly man, and that's what caused this to happen. So I was recording a YouTube video. Also, by the way, All of this is mentioned by Pyrocynical. He made a video about this over on his Pyro Live, and I gave him some info about what happened. So if you want a longer version, head to that video. Thanks, Pyro, for all the help with getting my account back.
That's why I briefly want to go over this. I don't want to go over it fully because, you know, we've just already gone over Pyro's video, but I do appreciate the transparency from Wendigoon here with an official response, an 8-minute response, you know, thoroughly going through everything, making sure people know and are aware of what's been happening.
Well, we can't really talk to you about, you know, what we're doing until we verify that it's you. And then they asked for verification because their system wasn't working.
Realistically, this is a pretty big red flag, right? When they say their system is down, this isn't working, can you do this instead of this? That's usually a pretty big red flag that this is a scam, this is a hack of some type, that this isn't legitimate.
Because I'm stupid. They had set up an authenticator app so that when I tried to log back in after the password reset, I was able to change the password and lock them out, but I can't log in because I don't have the authenticator.
And yeah, he actually spoke about this in the Pyro Live bit. I just didn't go over it. It was pretty long-winded there, but he does sum it up there. He didn't have an authenticator app for his Twitter, which I highly recommend that if you have any accounts, so you have an authenticator app, it's incredibly useful. It protects your account. It's definitely worth doing.
And she just thought better of me when she shouldn't have. But I was being very dumb. That's on me. A bunch of people thought it was AI. I saw a bunch of people on Reddit and stuff who saw that video of me, and they were like, yeah, that has to be AI, which, by the way, I appreciate your all's goodwill to the degree that if you saw a video that was absolutely me pushing a crypto scam, you would still assume it's AI. That means a lot. I appreciate your all's trust to that degree. But no, that was me thinking it was for verification, not knowing what it would get used for.
I don't blame anybody, including Wendigoon's partner, for believing that this was AI, right? It does just feel weird. It does look like a weird video. It does feel pretty random. And, you know, you probably wouldn't think in the moment that this would be for something entirely different that has now been used for this whole crypto scam thing. Again, this is a point where I do really respect the transparency here. I respect his openness. I respect that he's addressed this within this 8-minute video and cleared this all up. That's something that I do very much respect.
They were tricky. Yes, the guy I was talking to spoke perfect English. He did they had all the right URLs spoofed in order to send these emails. Yes, it was a good scammer, but nevertheless, I got scammed because I did something stupid. And I appreciate everyone who immediately recognized it as a scam. I really hope no one fell for that for the 5 minutes it was up.
Again, at this point, you can only hold your hands up and say, yeah, I was dumb, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have fallen for this, but at the end of the day, it happened, it was pretty professional, but at the end of the day, I made a mistake. That's again something I respect. Some people in his position wouldn't do that, probably wouldn't respond, probably would have just moved on, said, yeah, I've been hacked, this was a scam, whatever, ignore this, and moved on. So I do respect the transparency here and actually properly explaining himself. But that's all I want to go over for this Wendigoon slot pick, which I do want to say thank you for that word suggestion in the comments. That was a good one. If you do have any suggestions for other videos that you want me to go over, any slot picks, anything else, please feel free to suggest that down in the comments down below. I really do want to cover other stuff as well, other than iDubbbz. I know all of you are really enjoying my iDubbbz coverage, which I really do appreciate, and I will be continuing on that when there are sufficient updates. But of course, I want to cover other subjects, other topics, other stuff. So any recommendations and anything that you want to see would be highly appreciated if you did leave it down below in the comments. Once you're done, then you might as well leave your opinions on this video and on Wendigoon. I'd highly appreciate that. And again, once you're done, then you might as well subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a slot video from Slot Mule. But I've been your host Samuel, and I will catch you in the next YouTube video. Goodbye.